People are asking, what exactly is codependency? Because it's kind of an ambiguous term. People talk about it all the time and they act like, okay, we can't be codependent, but we need to rely on each other. So I'm going to teach you today what codependence is and exactly how to recognize it so that you can start being aware of it in your own life and when other people are being that way with you. People will explain codependence in a lot of different ways. For example, they'll say when you rely too much on someone else, when you have expectations of someone else that aren't healthy, when you think things should be a certain way or someone else should act a certain way. But again, that's ambiguous. Well, I have a really simple way to teach you exactly what codependence is, and it's three simple things that you need to be aware of. Codependence is when you need someone else to think a certain way, feel a certain way, or act a certain way for you to feel at peace. If you're irritated or bugged or mad because someone else isn't thinking the way you want them to think, they're not feeling the way you want them to feel, they don't feel excited to go to an event that you want to go to and you're mad that they're not excited. So that's feeling the way you want them to feel. Or if they're not behaving or acting, doing behaviors that you want them to do. You want the person that's in your relationship with you to come and hold you when you're mad. Or if it's a business relationship, you have an executive assistant who isn't responding and taking care of things the way that you want them to, and you are irritated, you're bugged, you're frustrated, you are not at peace because they are not feeling, thinking, or acting the way you want them to feel. Now, what's interesting is I want you to start noticing when you do this in your life, because we don't want to be codependent. We want to be interdependent. Interdependent is healthy. That's when we rely on each other in a healthy way. But codependence is when we are upset because someone doesn't do what we want them to do or feel or think the way we want them to behave. And I remember when I was working with one of my mentors, who is my husband and I were going to a therapy with this a wonderful therapist. His name is Joe. We call him Joe Sweet Joe because we love him. But he was kind of explaining codependence. And I said, and I've heard it explained so many different times. And all of a sudden it hit me. And I said, so what you're saying is that codependence is when you cannot be at peace unless someone thinks, feels, or acts the way you want them to act. And he thought about it and he said, yeah, that's exactly right. So what I want you to notice are the times when you do this. And I started paying attention and I noticed that I wasn't codependent with anyone that I interacted with on a normal basis, except my husband and my executive assistant. I was totally codependent in several different ways, and I noticed it popping up. So for example, if I was having a hard time or I was feeling lovey-dovey or whatever it was with my spouse, it didn't matter what it was. There were a lot of times I noticed several times in a day where I would kind of be bothered because he wasn't responding the way I thought he should respond, or he wasn't like I'm telling him something that I'm super excited about, and he has a look on his face that doesn't look very interested. And I didn't like that. That is codependence. And you can be different levels, of course. So those were the two people that I noticed I was codependent on. But then I noticed something else. I actually called, I had made a phone call because I had a customer service call that I needed, something I needed to take care of. And here I am on the phone with them, and I'm doing this customer service call, and she is not taking care of me the way I want her to take care of me. And I find myself on the phone getting more and more bugged and irritated at her inefficiency and thinking like this. That is codependence. It doesn't matter what she does or doesn't do. I don't need to be codependent. I can be at peace. And if she's not handling it the way that I would like her to, I can ask for a supervisor. I can take my business somewhere else. There are a lot of options that I have, but to sit there and let my peace be invaded because I want her to do what I want her to do and she's not, that is codependence. So as you go through this next week, or maybe this is something you want to start really working on being aware of over a longer period of time, I want you to notice the times when you are codependent. And I'll tell you this, if this is your first time really having that aha moment where you go, oh my gosh, this is what it is. Like, I can't believe that. I can promise you something. It's going to be a little bit hard. And you are going to feel, you're probably going to feel defensive. You're going to feel like, excuse me, well, this is not codependence because, and you're going to have these feelings that you're not used to that are really uncomfortable. But I want you to welcome those. I want you to invite those feelings because you need to sit in that feeling so that you can think about it. And like when I realized I was doing that to the customer service person, I seriously thought this. I thought, oh my goodness. And I I thought, I do not want to be someone who's codependent. I will not be codependent. So then it made me, because I'm very competitive, it made me very driven to notice when I was being codependent and stop doing it. And it's hard. And especially with people you really love that you interact with a lot in a relationship, or people that you've really been hurt by, then what happens is when you start noticing that you're doing it, you feel defensive because you feel justified. You feel like, well, but they did this. And so why is it bad if I act this way? So I want you to start paying attention. I would love to hear your comments. If you're vulnerable enough to share your comments with me, tell me when you notice you're doing it. I would love to hear about it. Now, what I was doing with my executive assistant is I wanted her to solve my problems. And that's a lot of times that's what executive assistants do. And she was amazing. And we were also very close friends. And so what was happening was I was being a horrible boss in some ways because I liked her to fix my problems. So when I was frustrated about something that happened or didn't happen in the office the way I wanted, or if I was traveling around the world and there was a problem and I needed the problem solved, I would call her. Now, healthy would be to call her and ask for her help, let her know what I'd like her to do, and she takes care of those things. That's her job. But instead, I would be frustrated. I would call and I would expect her to like jump in and save me. So it was an unhealthy way that I was doing this. And as we tried to transition out of that codependent relationship, because she was very good at fixing things and she loved me. So she wanted to fix everything. And I loved it that she did that. But I started realizing how unhealthy it was. And it was a really, really hard transition. And I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at the transition. So if you are trying to work on this and you start noticing, I want you to talk to the person that you notice so that you're not just completely changing your relationship with them. And they're going, I have no idea what they're doing because this is not the way that we normally interact with each other. Now they're confused and it's hard and difficult for them and can be frustrating, can be super confusing. So what I want you to do is, if you are thinking, oh my goodness, I do this with my spouse, I do this with my kids, I do this with people at work, I do this with my boss, or I'm the one who is trying to save my boss. And so we have this interactive codependent thing going on. Remember what it is. When you need someone else to think, feel, or act a certain way, or you are not at peace. You don't have to like it. You don't have to be happy about it. But you're not irritated, you're not bugged, you're not letting that kind of take over, that attitude take over. You have decisions to make. You can decide, okay, I'm going to train this person so that they know what to do. Okay, I'm going to talk to my boss and say, hey, I'm realizing I have been handling this in a really unhealthy way, and this is what I do, and this is how I act codependent with you. And so I'm going to really work on stopping this. And so you talk about it and figure out ways that you can change that. Because I will tell you this is a promise I'll make to you. If you will stop being codependent, work really hard on trying to not do that, you will feel like a burden is lifted off your shoulder. Because guess what you're doing when you're codependent? When you're codependent, you are thinking of the things that they should change and you need them to fix. And if they don't fix it, it's a problem. And so you're being controlling. You might not act it out. Maybe you're someone who acts maybe more subservient, or maybe you get mad and you're outward about it. However you exhibit those feelings, it's not healthy. So I'm excited for you to learn about this and start paying attention, but be ready because it's going to be hard. And there were times I felt so mad because I thought, oh my goodness, like this is not fair, kind of. That's what you feel, because that you feel justified in feeling the way you feel. And then you kind of want to explain it away and explain why you're not being codependent. Well, stop doing that. It's time for us to change. You guys, we're not just going to think different. We're going to be different.